All right, we're live now. Mr. Ted Bush, Cash Jackson trial update with attorney Ted Bush. Ted thought we were live. We're live now. And
Yeah,
Ted,
I
take it
mean,
away.
I just watched you guys for 15 minutes and thought I would fit right in, and so
Yeah.
it was a nice conversation. But to tell you um, where we are, I mean, I don't know if people have been following people that follow Cash Jackson. Many of them have been following him for years. He's a 20-year Navy veteran. He's someone who got caught up in the system. And I'll tell briefly his story because it actually is quite simple. I mean, when people there's always a criticism of pro se parties. You know, Cash isn't pro se right now, but you know, when you're into this and you're thinking about all these minute details that these people are making you relive and relive and relive over years and years and years and years ago, you keep sort of like you stay focused on those things and you stay away from the big picture. And so, you know, we're about ready to start day 3 of this trial tomorrow. And so I sort of have a big picture view. You know, as Sean will know, it's usually our goal to try to simplify things. And in this case, it's really not that difficult, really. I mean, this is, and I'm, you know, if for people who are not familiar with Cash, he's got a Facebook page. He's, you know, established a profile, a pretty public profile for himself, and we gained notoriety as sort of, you know, a leader in the backlash against family law abuse. And Cash is charismatic. He's you know, he's tall. He's cut for this role, and he's articulate and learned. From being a drill instructor at the Great Lakes Naval Academy, which is just up in Lake County, where he was living. He lived in Lake County because he was stationed in the Marine base. And so what happened is that Cash lived in Lake County as a drill instructor for a few years. And then he got where he was a reserved sheriff's deputy at the Lake County courthouse. So he was literally one of them, basically a volunteer public servant, right, where he goes in and guess what? Guess what a drill instructor gets when he joins the Reserve Corps? He gets a leadership award. Okay, and so, you know, while he's a drill instructor in Illinois, he's losing all kinds of time with his kids because he's working 100-hour weeks and spending all this time as a drill instructor. So, you know, some of the evidence we have, just for example, he's got literally 30 letters from basic training naval recruits where he had them for 2 months. The final day of basic training was his son's birthday. And so he wasn't able to see his son for his birthday. That day, 30 naval recruits wrote handwritten letters to his 3 children, telling his children, this is in 2012, of how great of a person he is, how great of a role model he is, how much they want to be like him, right, and how much it hurts him that he can't be with his son on his birthday. And so that's just example. So after 2 years, he's reassigned to Washington State. He moves out to Washington State, but his wife doesn't go with him. She stays with the kids because the marriage is breaking down. And so while Cash is stationed in Washington State on a naval base out there, he's hardly seeing his kids. And then finally, July of 2014 comes around and he files for divorce. And while he's on the other side of the country, he files for divorce in Lake County because Cash thinks, oh, guess what? You know, I'll get my rights as a father aren't being protected. If I file for divorce and go into court, then my parental rights are going to be respected and protected. Yes, Sean. Yes. Oh, boy. I mean, and I can say this after looking through the documents. It's a matter of law. It's not even close. As a matter of law, but based on the common law record, Cash was 100% discriminated against because he was an active duty military person. I mean, there's absolutely no other explanation for it in the common law record, which I've reviewed. 6 volumes, okay, about this high. Now we're at 7. And so the first order entered in Cash's case was August 6th of 2014. And Sean, you'll love this. The parenting time with his kids was by agreement. Now, Sean, I just a question for you. When you're dealing with a narcissistic, borderline gatekeeping parent, and your parenting time is by agreement, what kind of parenting time do you have?
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Okay.
0, right?
Yeah, big donut.
They're really
Yeah, there you go. You got that.
Yeah, they're really not capable. They're really not capable of seeing or understanding the value of anybody else.
Nope.
Right. So Cash files for divorce, and he gets a whole bag of nothing. And so this is August. Now, what happened is there's a chain of events that happened. So she files an emergency OP petition. Okay. So on July 14th, 2014, when Cash tells her she's going to file for divorce, she starts going through all his things, throwing all his things in garbage bags, and is basically kicking Cash out of the house. And Cash calls the cops. The cops come over and then basically settle things down, say, he's going to move his own things, he's going to move out. And it's in the police report. They ask his ex-wife, do you want a domestic violence information form? She says no. Well, guess what she does the next day? She goes in and files an emergency order of protection under the Domestic Violence Act.
Mm.
Okay? So, I'm not a protected person one day, the next day I am.
Does she have an attorney?
She did not. She did it pro se. And so she filed for an emergency order of protection on July 16th. And then Cash filed for divorce on July 30th, 2014. And then the first order entered in this case was the emergency order of protection expiring, so it wasn't renewed. It turned into a joint mutual restraining order where both sides agree not to, harass or say, bad things about one another. Basically, a cease and desist ceasefire order that they mutually agreed to. Okay, so the EOP is out. And on August 6th, 2014, Cash gets 0. Okay, because he's out of state. There's no phone contact, no Skype contact, no parenting time. So finally, in March and then what his ex-wife did is she took that emergency order of protection from July and sent it to his naval command, and just ruined his naval career, because in the Navy imposed a mirror order of protection against him out there, in which she was pro se, not even represented by counsel. He certainly wasn't there. She does this completely behind his back, without him to be noticed, without a hearing, and then sends it to the Navy. Okay.
And she probably has no evidence, right? She walks in there and she says, I feel scared. This, but she's got not a whiff of objective anything that would qualify under a rule of evidence.
Well, Cash wasn't even living there. I mean, so order of protection is sort of like, a temporary ceasefire, a cooling off period at its best. And he wasn't even living in Illinois. So, I mean, it was frivolous. Maybe she got tipped off that, this is how you win your upcoming divorce case. They'd been talking about, that for a while. And so then Cash attempts suicide in October of 2014. And then he attempts it again in February, okay, where the second one was particularly serious. So he was devastated, depressed, his career, his family, his kids, everything, catastrophically, caving in on him, because he thinks he's going to get relief from this justice system, and he's finding out that he's out on the cold, and no one really gives a damn. And so he finally files a motion. He has an attorney at the time. Files a motion in March of 2015 to get a parenting scheduled and to get spring break parenting time. And he has to file a motion. There's never a hearing that restricted his parenting time, anything that sought to do that. And he got, a handful of days in the spring of 2015. And then fast forward Okay, and Sean knows why I'm explaining so much about the beginning, because the beginning is how these cases are often lost. I mean, no trial, no nothing. The first temporary order usually is going to give an indication of how a case is going to play out. So fast forward, Kash moves back from Washington in August of 2015 without there being a temporary parenting schedule still. And the first thing that they do to Kash is rush him to judgment. So he's back. His attorneys are saying, all right, basically they're keeping you from your kids because you've been away so long.
Yeah, the old status quo argument.
That's a status quo argument. And see, that's how these people normally operate. Well, the mother doesn't want him to see his children, but they've been separated so long. Therefore, since they've been away for so long, that we should start with supervised therapeutic visitation. Okay. In other words, we've got an active duty military person, and we're going to openly discriminate against him. That's what that is. Like, Sean, I mean, you agree that it's wrong, period. But when you're doing that with an active duty service person, particularly someone who's foreign deployed, or for that matter, I mean, he might as well have been foreign deployed. He was out, plane ride, 6-hour plane ride away. That you better be careful, folks. I mean, so basically his case slipped through the cracks. And on October 22nd, 2015, he was muscled in by his own counsel and the opposing counsel and the guardian ad litem to sign away basically a temporary supervision order, where his parenting time is slowly increased, where when the therapeutic supervisor is recommends overnights, then the graduated increase goes until every other weekend, and then 2 weeknights during the week with no overnights. So that would be
the cottage industry of professionals.
Yeah, of professionals. So yeah, it's really like a cookie cutter, and of course there was no trial, there was no hearing. I mean, but the most devastating thing that happened to Kash is that he signed away sole decision making to his ex-wife. Now he got a consultation provision, so he had at least the ability to be notified. He had the right to be notified and to be consulted with. But the final decision went to her, and he gave that away. And guess what the reason was? Number one, Sean, it was under the best interest of the child standard. There was a restriction under the best interest of the child standard. Okay, we've got case law in Illinois that says that you clearly cannot do that. Troxel versus Granville came from Washington State. It had to do with grandparent visitation rights, and the Supreme Court stepped in and said, oh no, you have to be proven unfit in order to impose a restriction. So they used the wrong standard. And then second of all, they claimed that, the reason we're going to give Julia sole decision making is because of their lack of communication. Okay, without ever assigning fault of who in fact is responsible for the poor lack of communication. Okay,
right.
So
right. We believe these people can't communicate.
Right.
And because they can't communicate, they can't make decisions together, but we're not going to make them actually work at communicating. More circular arguments.
Right. So what this was a classic case. I mean, and to think that there's any principle involved in this is just, you guys, of course, know is hogwash. Is that this was the classic, this is playbook, this is of the most common plays. If you're a football coach, this is like running, the sweep or the halfback off tackle, or a screen pass. I mean, it's one of the most common playbooks in family court. Is number one, keep the other parent away from the children in the prejudgment phase, and don't have any communication with them, and then claim that as a result you get sole decision making and sole custody. Which is what they did. And so Kash shows up to court on October 22nd, 2015, and says, I'm not into this. I'm not signing this. And then the court, and he fires his attorney. He's like, well, his attorney's like, as your attorney, I think that you should sign this. He's like, well, what makes you think that you're entitled to 50-50 and joint decision making? He goes, you're fired. And so he fires him that day. And did they give him an opportunity to get new counsel Okay, no. The judge said, if you don't sign this, we're going to go to trial that day. You're going to have to represent yourself. You're going to have to know the rules of evidence. And so there you go. So that was Kash's due process in the prejudgment phase. And now this is something that we found out while we were looking through his 2,000 messages and 928 pages of Our Family Wizard history. Okay, yeah, I mean, you can't make this up. Okay, if there wasn't a snake in the grass that was caught that day, I don't know what else it is you have to do. So his ex-wife imposes supervision, therapeutic supervision is what they call it, or supervision. He had supervised parenting time until a reunification counselor recommends he has overnights. Okay, so that's what he gets. His parenting time is restricted. He cannot see his children by himself. Okay, because of an order that his ex-wife imposed on him. That very day that he signed that parental allocation agreement, that very day, she writes to him on Our Family Wizard and says, Kash, would you like to have the children next weekend? Meaning unsupervised, full weekend, that next effing weekend. Okay, so tell me, would anyone with half a brain say, okay, son, why did you keep them away from the kids for the first 15 months? Why did you impose supervision? Why did you claim that this guy's such a risk? And then the second you get sole decision making, all of a sudden, hey, Kash, I got to do something. You want to have the kids next weekend. You get them on Friday, and then you come back on Sunday.
Is there a restraining order in place at the time?
No.
No. Okay.
No,
right.
Nothing.
Got it.
Okay. So I mean, there you go. If you can't spot a gatekeeper based on that, you're worthless. Okay. And by the way, these people in this court,
that's not having power and control over the father-son relationship and ultimately over the father. And Jennifer Harmon, who was on Chris's show several weeks ago, basically came right out and talked about that and said that's the hallmark sign of a domestic violence abuser.
Well, I mean, what it really is, okay. I mean, we're going to make this argument. I sort of already have, but I will. Okay, you know how Kash is tagged. He embraces his masculinity. He doesn't hide from it. Okay, but we all know we've all been in sort of ingrained in what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity is now known as domineering male behavior, controlling, subjugating the will of an innocent person.
So anybody in the family law system, like judges, would fall into that category naturally.
Well, but also women. Okay, I mean,
Sean's just like, oh God.
Tell me how a woman is not capable of doing the exact same thing, and that there is not, in fact, there is such thing as toxic femininity with the exact same definition as toxic masculinity.
Children are jerks too. So are dogs.
Right, exactly. So I mean, that's basically what happens here, is that he gets muscled into being basically a second-class parent, and he starts to see this, and he's taken aback by it. Now, Kash, people are like, oh, Kash must have been getting mad, as he started to see that she would always manipulate and control him to get what she wanted. And the funniest thing, in the early days after the judgment was entered in 2015, Kash was doing really clever things, like holding her to the text of that agreement. So she said, "Oh, I feel unsafe. We need to drop off at the Lake County Visitation Center," which was a half-hour drive from her house. And she's like, "Hey, Kash, let's go meet at the McDonald's. It's 2 minutes away." He goes, "No, we're going to meet at the Lake County Family Visitation Center," and make her drive an hour, back and forth. I mean, and that's when they would get into fights, but usually it'd be she wanted something. So right away, as we get into 2015, at the end of 2015, she starts demanding Christmas Eve. He's like, "Well, I get Christmas Eve." And then all of a sudden she starts retaliating against him. She says, you can't pick up the kids from the babysitter. You can't, Marina can't pick up the kids from the school. You know, it's like always like she would want something. Well, I'm entitled to Christmas Eve. I would like to spend Christmas Eve with the kids. You get them on Christmas Day. Why don't you just take them on Christmas Day? That kind of stuff. And so she would withhold things from him totally improperly. And then he would turn around and retaliate by holding her to the text of the agreement.
That's not retaliation.
Well, yeah, but exactly, it was clever. And so, I mean, we literally, in this case, Sean, we introduced the entire 928 pages of Our Family Wizard, printed them out as a group exhibit. Literally 1,000 pages. Literally inviting the other side, because we read them all. Say, look, here you go. Yeah, here you go. Here's the whole damn thing. You find something and they're damaging to us. They haven't made one reference. And
No.
that Our Family Wizard history goes from September of 2015 until the present. And
Yeah,
so
what they do instead is they're going to say, "Oh, look at the stack of paper. It's overwhelming. It's so much. It's so much.
It's taller than I am."
Oh, Sean, you couldn't be more correct, Sean. No, this is for real. Okay, so Sally Lichter, who's the guardian ad litem in this case, she testifies on the first day. I cross-examined her for about 3.5 hours. I said, Sally, we gave you the Our Family Wizard exhibits. Did you look at them? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, why? Because I just don't look at these because they're time consuming and they're hard to understand.
Oh,
I said, well,
God.
Sally, I wrote you a 2-page summary and included key documents and key messages and put them in context. Did you read my summary? No, I didn't.
Did you use a crayon for her?
Yeah. So literally, like so I mean, it just shows what a joke these programs are, because this is the thing that's supposed to keep people honest. So yeah, we'll monitor you in real time, but when we do a real forensic assessment of hey, what really happened here? That's too much work.
Oh my God!
They're the supposed professionals. I mean, it's unbelievable. So let's just, I'm going to move through, because this is probably the most concise, holistic view of Cash's case you will see, because you will see that Kash is entirely rational throughout this entire period, and he's just getting absolutely fucked. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. So
vilified. That's the word you're looking for.
Well, he was targeted. I mean, that's how it is. They start off with someone who's the basically the winner and the loser. And Kash was cast off as the loser and treated like a loser. And so in October of 2015, I got to put this in here. October 2015, before the judgment is in, okay, Kash starts to protest. Okay, and what did he do? He wrote on his truck with window paint.
Oh, I wish I could pull that up right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can show these 3 pictures where he wrote on his truck, "I'm deadbeat, I'm dead broke, not a deadbeat. I would be fishing with my kids right now, but I only get 3 hours of supervised visitation."
Right.
I mean, he's writing in there, and so these family courts are broken. Okay, so you start to get like a little bit of an activist tweet from Kash in October 2015 before the judgment is entered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kash gets, so Kash is basically having overnights with his kids. Basically, it's happening, and they're just working things out. Well, so we go from, basically, when you actually look at these documents, we go from a fight in Christmas up unto Easter. Now, his ex is religious, and Kash is Kash.
Spiritual.
But in the agreement, Kash got every odd Easters. So this one just happens to be his Easter. And Julia says, his ex says, "I want Easter." And Kash is like, "Well, no, this is my Easter. This is what you wanted." It was, I mean, always brilliant. Like, he wanted more parenting time, and she wanted to just do whatever she wanted. And he would hold her, I mean, just again, holding her to the agreement. Nothing wrong with that, holding her to the agreement. And so what happened was, is that then she starts withholding things again. You can't pick up the kids from daycare. You, just doing all these things to setting these arbitrary little, things that he can't do. Marina can't pick up the kids from school, his ex-girlfriend. Those kinds of like retaliatory things. So that's the first salvo she does. Then she goes completely silent on Our Family Wizard as of March 17th of 2016. Goes completely silent. And she's off for a month when the agreement says she's required to communicate on this platform. So they're not talking for a week. They see each other at Taekwondo, at his son's Taekwondo in Gurney and Grand Avenue. Master Lee's Taekwondo. They're outside, and Kash just walks up to her and said, hey, that's here he is. And he's got a fan.
Oh, is Kash here?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I'm about ready to tell him about the third OP. Oh. So
Kash.
So I was just talking about Lee's Taekwondo. So Kash and Marina talked about this today. We'll talk about Marina a little bit later. So Kash gets out of the car and talks to his ex about just logistics things that would normally be discussed on Our Family Wizard, but she's not checking Our Family Wizard. So then all of a sudden, his ex claims that they got into an argument. Marina witnessed it. Marina testified about it today. One child was inside, the other child was in the back seat asleep. And then she turns around the next day and goes and files her third emergency petition for order protection while she's represented by counsel. Goes and by herself, files for an emergency order protection and gets it. And what she puts on that third order protection was the complaint that Kash had been protesting on his car, which happened in October, 5 months before the judgment was entered.
So men are not allowed to say I'm being abused because that's abusive.
So she tacks that on. So she's like, well, there was an argument at Taekwondo, but he was, the children don't like the fact that he's writing on his car and protesting about you. Meaning really it's children. Like, what's up?
Hey, Kash Jackson, welcome to the show.
Why don't you pull up a chair?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Yeah, get closer. Want to see that handsome face.
Yeah, well, at least you need to have one on here. I mean, actually 3 out of 4. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, Ted, if you could just go ahead and get off camera, you can keep talking. Just
there we go. So
This chair sits way lower, by the way.
okay.
Another chair, my friend. So yeah, get the other. I was almost gonna shit can that. Sorry,
That's an old
poop can that chair. So what she does is she really throws in some bait. Oh, he was protesting the courts, integrity. So the judge enters an emergency order protection. So he doesn't see his kids at all for about 3 weeks. This is after the judgment, and
no First Amendment analysis at all.
Well, I mean, on the pretext it was entered over the argument at the Taekwondo, but. Yeah. But I don't think were the police ever called that day? The police, yeah, they were. The police were called. We have the police report. There's nothing happened. Just an argument.
But the judge is limiting his speech based upon what he did on his truck, and he doesn't do a First Amendment analysis.
Well, Sean, you'll see what happens. So the emergency is entered really over the Taekwondo, but at least in Illinois, it hangs over. So the emergency is entered, and it continues to a plenary hearing on April 12th of 2016 for a plenary order protection.
To extend it out possibly 2 years.
To extend it out to keep him away possibly from his kids for 2 years. And so what happened on the 12th of April is it goes back before his primary judge, which is Judge Joseph Salvi. And Judge Joseph Salvi hears the plenary and they say, look, nothing happened. There was just an argument over that, Kash filed a rule to show cause about her not using Our Family Wizard. She's not communicating. And what did she really want? She wanted Easter, and she got it. And she went in and got Easter, amended the judgment by getting an EOP. That's horrible, okay? That is manipulative, controlling behavior, and she did that, and that was horrible. So when the plenary comes up on the 12th of April of 2016, there we go.
Good picture.
So when the plenary comes up, Judge Joseph Salvi, what these judges often do is he sort of casts aside the basis for the emergency. But he says, well, I'm hearing that the children were disturbed by the writing on his car, irrespective of the fact that it happened 6 months earlier, and slaps a plenary OP on Kash and extends it from April until July of 2016, ruining his summer with his kids completely, throwing him back to supervised visitation. Okay. And so with Kash, he was already leaning there. Kash got punished not only for speaking out, his protected First Amendment speech, he got protected for conduct that he did before the judgment was entered. Right? Punished for things that he did, like a true ex post facto law.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, truly. And so, I mean, Kash, you can, I mean, Kash is here. He can describe how that changed him. I mean, because I've witnessed this, I know this case. The reason why I sort of gave you like sort of a forensic go back through to this case is basically where, Ben Winderweedle, who started this case, turned into Kash Jackson. And that forever changed, basically destroyed Ben Winderweedle, and basically Kash was Kash. Am I wrong?
Not entirely, no. That's fairly accurate. Yeah,
There it is.
that right there. That's why I had to pay to see my children. They made me pay. They made me rent my children at their child trafficking rent-a-center, known as a safe place, right, in Lake County, Illinois, where, if you're going to recall, Chris, I don't know if you can pull up that viral video of attorney Michael Strauss, the Illinois bar appointee for the Family Bar Association, their lobbyist. He sits on the board of a safe place. And what I found quite peculiar now is that if any of you fine gentlemen decide in your free time to Google a safe place in Lake County, Illinois, I would encourage you to take a look at who their board members are and what companies and organizations they represent. And I believe that we're going to begin to see a pattern here of these child trafficking rent-a-centers known as a safe place or some form of a domestic violence center. And it was there, that here I am in my 20th year in the Navy. I am retiring from the United States military service while simultaneously getting letters handed to me by the commanding officer of Naval Service Training Command, thanking me for my military service. I'm also going that weekend after my retirement ceremony to rent 1 hour with my children. So I've got all of these letters from presidents, all of these certificates, all of these awards being dumped out on me in June of 2016 during my military retirement. And while simultaneously being blessed with the ability to rent my children from people who kidnapped them from me legitimately for expressing my First Amendment right that I fought for. And it was when I sought clarification from Judge Joseph Salvi of the 19th Judicial Circuit, when I said, do I understand you correctly to say that you intend on punishing for my First Amendment right that I fought for nearly 20 years? At that time, it was right at the 20-year mark, and he laughed in my face.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do to you.
That's what happened on April 12, 2016.
And that's what he did.
Sir, are you punishing me for expressing my First Amendment rights? He said, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Wow.
And so that was a declaration of war. In my opinion, that was an open declaration of war by a state actor under color of law. He made it very clear that for me expressing my First Amendment right, that he was going to not only take the access away from my children, but he made it quite clear. Let me say this, Chris. He made it clear. Because after he said that, he said, sir, the people that come into my courtroom, generally speaking, they get it. Like they'll get it. That if they continue the behaviors that landed them in the position they're in, like what you're in right now, he goes, they'll normally stop that behavior. He said, but I don't think that you get it. I don't think that you quite comprehend. Like he's trying to say that I'm mentally deficient and I don't get it.
Right.
And I said, oh, no. No, I understand you very well. I get it.
Yeah.
I said, here's what I get. that for nearly 20 years of my life in the United States military, I defended this nation against terrorists, against terrorism. And then what you're doing to me and my kids, this is what terrorism looks like. I didn't cower to it for 20 years in the military, and I'm not going to cower to it now.
Right.
Here we sit 5 years nearly after that EOP, and forcing me to pay to see my children, robbing my children of the full 90 days of almost 90 days. There was 80 something days of paid vacation time I had saved up over the last several years of being apart from my children, mind you. Nobody ever really discusses in this trial or in these proceedings that I was separated due to my military service from 2012 to 2015. 3 years I was apart from my babies. 3 years. My ex-wife, being being the Christian that she is and being as reasonable as she is, she only expected me to go the entire 4 years, the last 4 years of my career, apart from my children and my wife. Well, after 2 years of me paying the $2,500 mortgage, paying $500 a month of her student loan, paying all of the utilities on the home, so, the sum total was averaging about $3,600 to about $4,000 a month of my E6. If you want to look up what an E6 was making in 2012 to 2013 or 2014, feel free, what an E6 makes in the military. It wasn't enough for me to pay my own bills, pay all of those bills, and afford a place of my own in Washington State. So it was under the good graces of friends and previous shipmates that took me in and let me, sleep on their couches, let me stay in their spare bedrooms. That's how I lived for 2 years while on active duty military. So by definition, I was homeless. So my wife at that time was perfectly fine with her husband being homeless, living in a 3,000 square foot, $300,000 home that I was paying for while alleging I didn't want to provide for my wife and my children. And I threw the bullshit flag, and it's because I threw the bullshit flag and I stood up, I grabbed my backbone, I grabbed my testicles, and I said, I'm a man, and by God, you can't treat me or my family this way. And that's why we're sitting here today, Chris.
And so,
You're damn right.
And so the other thing that again, like this is sort of a, again, telling Cash's story as quickly as we can because we're sort of racing through years here, is that so we're going back to the playbook, like the screen pass, the off tackle, the basic plays of family law. Now, what happens now is even more evil. So there's one other thing that I mentioned that happened on that I didn't mention that happened October 22nd, 2015. Is that Cash agreed to a provision that I'm sure he looked at the time. He's like, oh, this is no big deal. This ended up being a big deal. So Cash ended up paying about $1,200 a month in child support. And Illinois has, some states have, laws where a child support will be a composite number that will cover all the expenses. It's sort of, calculated to capture all the, child-related costs. Well, Illinois isn't that way. According to Illinois law, basically, it's clothes, food, and shelter is what covers child support. So Cash agreed that he would cover 50-50 for all extracurriculars, all schools, including private summer, health,
healthcare, summer school, taekwondo, gymnastics, any extracurricular activities.
Right. Any extracurricular activities. So guess what his ex-wife did? She jacked up all of those costs, childcare costs, including daycare expenses, taking the kids to daycare when she didn't need to, putting kids, where they're shuttling the kids from extracurricular activities every day of the week, and forcing Cash, despite it not being in the judgment, forcing Cash to take the children to extracurricular activities, one, when they didn't want to, and number two, when the judgment said that he had the right to choose what he does with his time. So they were micromanaging his time. They put the children in summer school when the children didn't want to. And so Cash is getting destroyed by these mounting expenses. He's paying $1,200 a month. He's on military disability. That's being wrongly taken to begin with. He files a motion to reduce his child support after he's reduced from the Navy. That's denied because the judge says, well, you look like you're in good shape to me. Okay, where he's clinically depressed. He's been absolutely devastated. His naval career absolutely thrown to pieces. He was honorably discharged, okay, but he knew that the writing was on the wall.
It's a classic tactic. Use money as a weapon.
Right. And so what do? Then they start filing contempt petitions against him.
Right.
So they're alleging that he's in contempt and not paying all these expenses. And he's saying, I can't do that. So then they're trying to get attorney's fees on top of that for the costs incurred to file these contempt petitions.
So that's what happened to me.
Yeah. And what they're doing is that, and they're even filing. So when the Navy would say switch plans and he would be temporarily the life insurance policy would lapse or it would be they would file contempt petitions because the life insurance policy. They would be doing everything that they could. It was insane. Like there were 20 contempt petitions filed in around 2016 and 2017. Now, so finally, what happens is that on
that's abusive process.
That's what you're dealing with, Sean. I mean, this is it may be legal, but this crosses a line to where it's so vexatious, so malicious. I mean, Sean, I heard you talking about supervised filings for pro ses. I mean, are you telling me that there shouldn't be supervised filings when these people know that he's got financial affidavits, they know that he can't afford it. They're not entitled to that money anyway, and they're literally harassing him out of his children's lives. So yeah. Kash spent 3 days in jail from January 20th, 2017 until January 23rd, 2017. He filed a continuance motion. Okay, he was becoming more active. The only continuance motion he ever filed, he filed on December 2nd, 2016 to go to Standing Rock and protest at Standing Rock. They denied it. They held an ex parte hearing on December, I think it was 5th, 2016, holds them in contempt. Kash comes back, files a petition to vacate. They don't hear it, sentence him to jail. And then it basically continues on through basically that same shit from on through 2017. And then it also involves where he's having basically regular parenting time with his children. Now, in approximately July of 2017, his ex-wife, using her claimed sole custody, fires the reunification counselor who was appointed in the judgment to give recommendations. His name was Ken Stahl. So she summarily fires him and then picks a unilateral counselor for the children and claims that this unilaterally selected counselor can give custody recommendations.
Is she represented now?
The mother? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so opposing counsel is behind that. Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So things were going well. In fact, they're even moving towards 50-50, including in the summer. The GL saying, hey, maybe having 50-50 during the summer is a good thing. So his parenting time keeps getting more, like things are going well. And she pulls the rug out from under, fires the reunification counselor. Kash refuses. He keeps taking the kids. And they file a contempt petition against Kash for taking the children to the appointed reunification counselor in the judgment.
Right. So Kash is obeying the court's order. They're not obeying the court's order, and they want him to be held in contempt of the fact that he's obeying the court's order when they're not obeying the court's order.
They never filed a petition to modify the judgment. So this was completely unilateral. But on top of that, having the children's counselor give recommendations. That is literally calling on that counselor to get disbarred effectively by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. That is unethical.
They can't do that because that's the difference between a forensic provider and a treating provider.
Specific
ethical rules for mental health professionals that they are not allowed to evaluate someone that they are treating.
Right. And so guess what? The relationship with his daughter in a period of 3 months basically goes craters. And that's what we talked about in the hearing today for this long period of time, is that we spent a lot about this on today, and it was universal. The guardian ad litem, Marina, his mom, no one can explain why the relationship with his daughter deteriorated. There's no explanation. Nobody knows. And so, God, we talk about her. You want to talk about a rock star today.
Let's talk about Marina for a minute. That's why I got the photo. You mentioned her, so.
Oh. You made me cry, man.
All right, well, get off camera and let Ted talk. That's Ted talk.
No, because I'm going to cry. No, I'm going to cry.
I'm going to take you both off. Dude, text me what you want me to say.
No, it's okay, because we talked to Marina, after this, and she gave us permission to
Marina,
talk.
we love you. We love you, Marina.
Well, anyone?
Look, man, Marina and I were together for 6 years, man. And what astonished them the most today, what astonished opposing counsel, and I think by looking at the expression on my ex-wife, is the fact that me and this woman right here, while we had been together for 6 years, and we had been engaged for 2, they wouldn't let us go on the record and say it was sustained due to not being relevant, that this process killed our relationship because we could not just live our lives out. It was so incredibly stressful. And anyone who's been in this knows this significantly alters your own mental and emotional well-being. If it doesn't, you're a sociopath. If going through this, having your reputation destroyed, having your character assassinated, having all of your finances just nuclear bombed, driven out of the lives of your children, driven to the point that you will literally beg to end the suffering, beg to see your children, it alters you as a human being. It breaks you down. And then when you're trying to have a relationship, in the best of circumstances, relationships are hard. But having a relationship where you're fighting tooth and nail to keep your head above water, to try and breathe for 2 seconds and to live your life, they can't have that. And what drove them crazy today is that, yeah, while she and I might not still be in a relationship together, she is my friend and I love her dearly. And I would do anything for her. And I believe that she would do anything for me, including show up today and to tell the truth about what she witnessed. And you know what? It was a real, it's a slap to the face of not only military, but law enforcement. When this woman right here is not only a military police officer, she's in the reserves, she's an Air Force Security Forces police officer, but she's also a federal police officer, a civilian police officer on the same military installation. Now, when you will not lend the kind of credibility to this woman and her career and her life and our relationship and what and what we've lived through. And the best that you can do is to sit there and continuously ask her over and over again, but you're still friends. But you're still friends. As though the world itself was going to turn upside down because what they were expecting is that we would destroy one another. Mm-hmm. What they were expecting is that this woman right here would somehow turn on me and slay me inside this public court, and that they would be vindicated.
Right.
That I was everything that they said I was. Right. But you know what? She vindicated me, and that I was everything that she believed I was, that what my friends and my family have said that I am. I've never claimed to be perfect, nor has she ever claimed that I'm a perfect man. I'm flawed and I have mistakes, the same as all of us here sitting here today. But you know what? She's a rock star, and women like her who are brave enough to come out and defend us and to be mature and to be responsible and to just come out and say, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing this thing. Women like her should be applauded.
I mean this. Marina was so intelligent, so elegant, so well-spoken, so thoughtful, so just completely put together. She hit a grand slam.
And you know what? She broke down in tears.
She did.
She broke down in tears as soon as I walked out of that courtroom.
I heard her.
She was breaking down in tears. As soon as they were done, I stepped out and I called her, and she was breaking down in tears because she thought that she failed us. She thought she put so much pressure on herself because she knows how deeply this has hurt me, how this has scarred us, and what she told me before all of this went down is that I just want to see you reunited with your children, right? And that says volumes about that woman and her character and her heart, and because she knows what the right thing is, and she showed up today in a big way, and I'll never forget.
For anyone who has ever followed Kash's case and followed Marina's artwork, all her talents, all her skills, for what she did today for the Father's Rights Movement, every single person needs to write her and thank her because she stood up for all of us today. it brought tears to her. It brings tears to me because it was so powerful and so important that there are so many women that have gone through this.
They've lived it alongside
that can't go the whole distance. They tap out. They say, I can't do this. This is too unstable. This is too hard on me. But for those women that see it through, and know why I can't keep a relationship with you, but I'm going to be a character witness for you. I'm going to tell them what kind of father you are. And she testified that he never physically abused her, psychologically abused her, was controlling and domineering. He never abused alcohol. He never did drugs in front of the children, never abused marijuana. That the only abusive relationship she's ever been in was the one before him. And Kash said something important earlier. Is that I originally asked her, and I hadn't talked to Marina hardly at all. Okay, very little. But she didn't know that I was going to ask her, why is your relationship not ongoing? And I never rehearsed that with her. And in my go around, she just didn't really quite answer, and I wasn't going to push. Well, Raymond Bolt, the opposing counsel, he asked the exact same question, and she just sort of, it wasn't quite a bit, but she did say that this was too controlling, that basically was just too much, that there was too much pressure, too hard on Kash. She effectively said that it was just too much. Well, then I asked her at the very end of her testimony, I said, Marina, did family court cause the breakup of your relationship? Objection, Your Honor, sustained.
Wouldn't let it go on the record.
Wouldn't let it go on the record.
They don't want anything on the record that portrays family law in a bad light. Everything that they have discussed has focused around First Amendment rights. You understand me? Mm-hmm. I am the way that I am. I was a drill instructor. I was in the Navy for 20 years. I was a reserve sheriff's deputy in that county. In Lake County, Illinois, they wouldn't even let us present a leadership award, for God's sake.
Yeah.
A leadership award that I got from the sheriff's department.
Yeah, they can spend literally the entire hearing attacking his character. We brought in a police officer today. Her name was Katie Kaminsky. She was amazing. She's a wonderful woman. She knows Kash. They served together as reserve sheriff's deputies. She was the one that responded to, one of these fake incidents on May 2nd of 2020.
Dropping a phone off.
Yeah, dropping a phone off.
Trying to take a phone to my son.
I was there. I went with Kash to there, and I was there when she responded. And she shows up. She's like, Kash, she knew him as Ben, but Ben, she's going to give him a hug. And so when we get Katie, who just happens to know him and served with him, and already knew that he received the leadership award, we try to get basically a character reference from Katie, like, hey, do you remember this guy? They wouldn't let it in.
Nothing.
They spent all this time. So we have this police officer that responds, it's material to this case, happens to know him personally, and they won't let her talk about his positive, interactions of him as a leader.
Oh, because Judge Christensen said his character is not in question, and that's when I kind of lost it. I'm like, what do you mean my character is not in question?
Isn't that the entire case?
She almost threw me out over this when I'm like, I lost it. I'm like, what do you mean my character's not in question? All we've done for 2 days is assassinate my character.
Yeah, it's trial by character assassination. That's what it is.
Speak at will with hearsay evidence. With hearsay, you can do that at will. But as soon as somebody wants to give a firsthand account of their opinion of me as a man, as a professional, as a father, anything, nope, not relevant. We're only here to talk about your parenting. So then they will exclude anything, of course, and this is case fixing. This is what case fixing looks like. When you will exclude things to that degree that you know full well would make you look bad, would make everything that you've said look bad. You couldn't have several police officers, Marina being one, this one being one. We had several. My friend Jason Pat, who is a retired sheriff's detective, same for him. Endless. I've got so many friends that are police officers, all of these different doctors, even attorneys, you name it. They will not allow your character to be built up because the purposes of those hearings and those meetings is to assassinate your character. So they will cherry pick everything that they can find about you.
And they will make evidentiary rulings, arbitrarily sustain questions in order to prevent characters from being rehabilitated or supported. You know, we've seen this in this case where she's making evidentiary rulings where Kash is scot-free. Now we're starting to go on the offense of Julia, and she's, oh no, this is just about Kash. We're like, wait a second, our entire motion is based upon her withholding the children from Kash for years for no basis. And so now we're finally getting there, and she's like, oh, we're going to change the scope of this hearing. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to get into a big fight tomorrow morning over this, which by the way, tomorrow morning is when they bring in the kids. We're going to have an in-camera interview with the kids.
So to be the first time, Kash, you've seen your kids in 3 years?
I'm not going to get to see them.
Yeah, they're not even letting Kash see the kids.
Oh, God forbid.
No, they're claiming that they need a sheriff's escort because the children are afraid that Kash will see them when they come into the courthouse. Okay, so this is literally what they're doing. These snake scumbag dirtballs.
I wish I was there.
3 years I ain't seen my kids.
What they're doing is we're jumping through their hoops. We're playing their games. We got a reunification counselor. His name is Dr. James Bedell. She took the children to them once in November of 2020. What did she do after the counseling session? Took the kids to the police department and filed a police report against the reunification counselor as a pretext to never take them back to the reunification counselor.
For unlawful detainment.
Okay, so they keep the kids away from Kash for another almost a year. The kids have hardly seen them for 3 years. So instead of having the kids go through this process with an actual professional who knows about things like enmeshment, encapsulated persecutory delusions, that kind of thing, false positives, all the things that psychologists are trained to know, instead of having an actual professional give a recommendation, they're just going to bring the kids in cold straight to the judge and let the judge interview them. Two kids of them absolutely totally scared and brainwashed. And Sean, you're out in Washington State. I used to work in Congress. There was this congressman by the name of James McDermott.
State or DC?
Washington State. He's in Washington State.
Okay.
There was a congressman by the name of James McDermott who talked about how the Patriot Act was passed. And he said, all you do is scare them. You scare. You scare the people, they'll do anything. And that's
I used to live in McDermott's. I used to live in McDermott's district.
Yeah, you know him. He's a psychologist. I used to talk to him in the elevator. He's a psychologist, and he knows, human behavior, how they get laws passed. Well, how do they get custody in family courts? Scare the children.
Fear. Hey, Ted, what is the legal issue in your motion?
Well, that's an excellent question, because our view is this. Okay, now you'll give me the opportunity to sort of fast forward us to where we are, because I can be quick on this. Okay. So they changed the reunification counselor in July 2017. The relationship with his daughter starts to deteriorate. In February, his daughter refuses a visit with him. He says, okay, Kaylee doesn't want to come over and see me. I'm not going to make her come over and see me. I'm just letting you know that I'm not going to exercise this parenting time, but if you have to get childcare, I don't think I should pay for it because I know you're behind this. That's effectively what he said. He told the GAL that. Well, what he did, he just won the nomination for governor for the Libertarian Party of Illinois back in January. And basically he's had it. And he writes to them in February and March of 2018 and basically says, I won the nomination for governor on the Libertarian Party. I'm going to bring notoriety to this case. It's also possible that I may leave the state in the middle of November. So all he does is write one email to the GEL that he's not going to force Kaylee to have parenting time with him. He removes his case to federal court because he's running for governor. And the judge knows the judge is going to retaliate it against him. He's going to get a big profile, which he did. Removes his case to federal court, pro se, legitimately. Removes the case. Literally, the case was out into federal court. While it's out in federal court,
because he's got a federal question, because he's going to run for governor, then he's going to become the judge's boss, right?
Look, it wasn't the. I think that you and I could have drafted a great, if we knew him at the time, I think we could have drafted a great motion for him, Sean. But
I get it.
The bottom line is that he removed his case. While his case was removed, they come in and they enter an order that says that his parenting time with his daughter will be by agreement. Okay, so we go full circle back to August 6, 2014. Parenting time is by agreement, meaning 0. Okay, so that happens in March. He runs for governor. Long story about the judge's brother retaliating against him. And in fact, that got in today in Marina's testimony. Marina testified that it creeped her out that the judge's brother was calling for his spot on the Libertarian ballot, statewide ballot, for real, in a Facebook post. She's like, she started to feel scared for her own safety.
Well,
because these, vultures, creatures of the system, coveted something that they wanted, which is his spot on the statewide ballot.
Well, look, and we got to be honest, for a moment. Okay, you don't own. So one of the other Salvies, we got to understand, the Salvies are the mob, part of the mob in Illinois. Okay, there's 3 different brothers and a sister that I'm aware of. The brother that demanded my gubernatorial nomination for the Libertarian Party was a one Al Salvi. Okay. There's a Daily Herald news article you might want to pull up where Judge Salvi calls me the most egotistical or self-centered person he had ever had the displeasure of dealing with in all of his years of practicing law, which of course I was proud to accept that from him. But it was his brother, Al Salvi, who was a previously elected Republican in the House of Representatives in Illinois. He was a known politician there. He also ran for Secretary of State unsuccessfully against Jesse White. And then I believe he also ran for Senate as well, which was a failed run. But I presented that evidence inside court as a pro se litigant. So I was pro se and running for governor at the same time. So I think I did pretty good given the circumstances. But I presented the evidence in open court with a reporter from the Daily Herald sitting in the back of the courtroom who I had just been sitting with, and I showed him the evidence of my judge's brother, a first-degree conflict of interest, mind you, publicly.
You know that, Sean.
Publicly wanting my gubernatorial nomination, which of course was comical to me. And I made a very proper oral motion that he should recuse himself first, based upon the first-degree conflict of interest. He had an ethical duty as a sitting judge to look at that and go, holy shit. That's bad. I got to be off this case immediately. My brother demanded this guy's nomination, and I'm going to decide if this guy's ever going to see his kids again. Nobody sees a problem with that, apparently, in the Daily Herald or the Chicago Tribune, the Sun Times.
Cash, I tried to pull up the article, and it's making me subscribe.
I can send it to you. I've got it.
Send it to me. I'll pull it up. Send it to me on Messenger.
Now, this guy ended up cutting off contact with my son after the election was over. So he severed contact with my daughter prior to that, if I recall correctly. So I believe it was March in 2018, and I don't remember when that Daily Herald article was, or when they published.
It was August 6th of 2018. I'm going to pull that out.
That sounds right. So yeah, so in March of 2018, he severs contact with my daughter while my case is removed to federal court properly. So that means no jurisdiction. That means that man lost immunity. And as far as I'm concerned, the whole county and the state lost immunity because he was there as a state actor. He was appointed and I don't know what the correct terminology is, but the Supreme Court, right, supported this man being a judge. So as far as I'm concerned, the whole state of Illinois is liable for the theft of my children.
So Ted, what's the legal issue in your motion?
Okay, we're getting to there, John. We're almost there. Hold on a second. I'm multitasking.
It's a long way around.
He's trying to send me the article.
I want to send the article. I want to, because we're almost to the present, and I want to answer your question, Sean, and please keep us focused.
He has a most argument.
So what happened is that Kash ran for governor, like he said he was going to do. He decided after the election to move to Arkansas to get out. Okay, the state had been violating his rights. What Kash was describing is that what happened to him in August is that they imposed a supervised visitation order on his daughter. So it went from February to saying, I'm not gonna force her to see me, to saying parenting times by agreement. Then he's getting supervised visitation without a motion for a restriction of any kind, nothing. Okay, no hearing, no nothing. He's back to supervised visitation without ever been found to have engaged in endangering the children ever in this case. So 7 years. So on November 14th, 2018, he moves to Arkansas. He misses one status date on October 24th, 2018. They suspend his parenting time on the 14th and say that they're suspending his parenting time until he comes back to court. Meaning he has to come back into court and he can't see his children until then, knowing that he moved to Arkansas. And so he doesn't see his kids, and they prolong it out for 3 years. So then there starts to be a separation. I get involved in this case in October of 2019, and now they're basically spending all this time finding excuses to keep Kash away from his children when they're the ones that are responsible for the separation.
And then COVID comes along and gives them a wonderful excuse to do it again.
Oh, and they did. And there's a story behind everything. So what our motion is, it's really complicated, and it shouldn't be. I mean, basically, our view is that and it's always been my view, is that the order entered on November 14, 2018 was void ab initio. That it was invalid procedurally because there was a lack of a notice, a motion, a hearing, a finding of any endangerment. So it was illegal procedurally and substantively. You can't suspend a non-custodial parent's parenting time for moving out of state. And so they're saying, well, Mr. Jackson, he just abruptly up and left. When in fact their own exhibits have him writing to them in February and March.
But more importantly, if he's the non-custodial parent, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't have any notice requirements. He can move anywhere.
Thank you.
Anywhere.
Thank you.
Right.
The notice requirements only apply to the custodial parent.
Thank you.
Exactly. So there was absolutely no reason for them to do that.
And they got ample notice, all of them.
Yeah, the guardian ad litem was and the guardian, well, you didn't inform the court. What are you talking about? He told the guardian ad litem back in February that he may be moving in the middle of November.
Right. So your motion basically your motion is basically a motion to vacate under CR 60.
Well, I mean, we don't use the federal rules. It's more like it's a we have something called our to vacate a judgment. We have a statute called 1401, and 1401F basically says an order that is void can be attacked at any time. So basically, we started with a 1401F petition saying this is void, this has to go. This is completely a void, unlawful order, and they denied it back in September of last year. Denied it, which is a disgrace. And
they denied it because in family law they don't really pay attention to the law.
Right.
That's the really disturbing thing. I mean, hell, you've read some of my motions. I mean, they are law heavy. They are law dense. And you get into family law and it's like, oh yeah, well, whatever. We're gonna do what we want, because we can, because we know that by the time you wind up in front of the Court of Appeals, which may or may not even look at the law, right? The goalposts are gonna have been shifted.
Now, Chris, I just sent you the actual one of the Facebook posts from Al Salvi. The one that Marina testified scared her. Okay, I mean, basically, like, these people are organized crime, and I'm scared of these people. That's the next is a Facebook post, but there's another Facebook post that we don't have that was reported in another journal, in which this former politician Al Salvi notes that his brother is the judge in his case. That's how explicit it was. And so
again, it's the cottage industry of professionals, the people who work with each other all the time.
That's the one.
Right.
That's the one.
So what I'm doing now, Sean, is that I'm filing a motion to establish a parenting schedule. But my view is that I don't need to establish a parenting schedule because he's already got one in the judgment. They didn't file a petition to modify the judgment. It was their responsibility to do that. and we're not petitioning to modify the judgment. I mean, I suppose we could have, but what they're doing is that, so we're basically, I mean, my argument is that the November 14, 2018 order was voided by an order she entered in March of 2013 that gave Kash parenting time. So if she enters an order giving Kash parenting time, which he wasn't able to use due to COVID, that his parenting time is no longer suspended. So if his parenting time is no longer suspended, then it goes back to the parenting agreement. Is my argument. But what they're basically doing is they're trying to get Kash to prove that he was unfit. They're trying to get Kash to prove that he's fit without ever being shown that he is unfit. So there had to be a burden for someone to show he's unfit. That never occurred. So I'm saying that we don't even need to be doing this. So basically, this hearing is a whole waste of time.
They're trying to find me unfit.
But what they're doing is this is Orwellian, communist, scary shit.
They're burden shifting. If the burden is to prove unfitness, there are evidentiary standards upon that. But instead, by trying to shift it onto him, they're trying to force him to prove a negative without any evidentiary standards on it. Yeah, it's fucking burden shifting. I dealt with that bullshit in my case too.
Right.
You bring it up and you're like, this isn't my burden. This is your burden.
Well,
right? And you would think that would resonate with these people, but half the time, it doesn't resonate. And I think partially because they get this impression. It's like, we like this person and we don't like this person. Right.
Well,
and then
it's because these are kangaroo courts, and kangaroo courts will do these kinds of things. So Star Chamber in England did these kinds of things. So this literally happened. Okay.
It's really dangerous for you and me to say something like a court is a kangaroo court, right? Because disparagement of the judiciary is a real thing, especially for you and me. But
get him, Ted.
Well,
keep telling him, Ted.
This is my defense to using the term kangaroo court quickly, Sean, while you're on, because there was a Supreme Court case from 1967 called Enrique Galt. And there was a famous justice, it might have been Abe Fortas, that wrote in that opinion that said the condition of being a child doesn't justify a kangaroo court. So my view is that if Justice Fortas can say it, so can I. That's how I defend myself against that. But now let's get to this GAL here. So the GAL testifies she's been at GAL for 25 years. For the first time, and she even called her own recommendation bizarre. Her recommendation,
she said her own recommendation was bizarre.
Right. She said her own recommendation was bizarre.
Yeah.
She said for the first time in 25 years, she's recommending that the children decide what parenting time they have. So the children are now in control.
Yeah.
Literally. And
how old are these kids?
15 and
13.
15 and 13.
Right. So you're getting, with a 15-year-old, you're really getting really close to that point where they really do have a lot of self-determination rights. But you're a 13-year-old who hasn't seen his dad in 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Brainwashed.
This is a
They're
joke.
gonna suddenly be making decisions.
Right.
This is a joke. So she comes in and she said, and I really, because Kash will testify because I asked her this question. So Sally, if you're the GAL and you're saying that the kid should determine what the parenting time is, why do we need a GAL in this case?
Right.
I mean, I literally did. I mean, I literally see how the attorneys reacting.
Right. It makes sense.
Why did we spend?
What is your purpose in life?
Why did we spend $20,000 on you? And she's the one who famously said that she's not responsible for defending her children's civil rights. And when we ever asked her if a law was broken, sustained. Well, Sally, you're an attorney. Was this order illegal or illegal? Was this proper or improper? Sustained.
Objection called for legal
She's
conclusion.
not an expert in law. She has no fiduciary duty to her clients at all.
But she's very well respected.
And she has no duty at all to do a complete investigation at all. I mean, like, she answered, I don't know, like 50 times in my cross-examination. And on top of that, it's not her goal to give a recommendation. So she's appointed in December of 2019. He's supposed to go broke paying her. And what has she done? Nothing. That's what these people do, is nothing. So that, but what she says, and this is real communist shit. I can read from her report. If you want me to read it, Sean, maybe
you should read it.
You want me to read it? I'll read the damn thing.
You should read it.
This is incredible. Like honestly, like this is Marxist-Leninist stuff.
Yeah,
serious.
It you know what? To me, it's like the tip of the iceberg there, where it sits right up on top. You can't see the catastrophe underneath, but right up on top, that's an iceberg. And in this, and contained therein, is that the entirety of this is that they know they cannot tell me or force me to stop this level of speaking out. They cannot physically stop me. They can't force me. Nothing that they have done has worked up to this juncture, including 3 years of keeping my kids. I think that maybe they were just hoping I would go radio silent and wear out.
But
they
Kash,
didn't know me very well.
here's the thing. They know that about you, but they don't care, and they don't want you to shut up. You know why? Because every time you open your mouth, every time anything happens at all, they look at that as the sound of a ringing cash register.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Literally.
it increases the conflict, it increases attorney fee billing hours, and I'll bet you, hear me out on this. You can take advanced courses in conflict de-escalation. Hell, I was in the Navy too, right? But I didn't spend as much time in the Navy as you. They probably taught you, particularly as a military police officer, conflict de-escalation tactics, listening to the opposing,
Right.
active listening, right? Quid pro quo horse trading, right? Consensus building, the same sorts of things that you use in order to bring warring parties together, to bring, the Irish conflict to an end, to help South Africa find a way to heal, right? To help bring the Balkan, right? To bring the Balkan conflict to a close. You find ways to build consensus between parties, that literally want to kill each other. I'll bet. I never bet more than $1, but I'm betting you $1 right now. I'll bet you that nobody involved, none of the opposing attorneys on the other side, ever used a single conflict de-escalation tactic.
No.
Oh, damn! I didn't get $1.
And literally, like these people, like this is how crazy, how horrible their investigation.
They want him to keep talking. They want him to, to do this because it just creates conflict. It gives them the ability to create the argument and create conflict. The other side of that is that if you don't do anything, right? They're like, oh well, he doesn't care, right? Oh well, we win anyway.
This is how biased the report was. She said, I'm going to read this report, but it says, well, Kash shouldn't be so angry at his ex-wife. And I asked Sally Lichter, Sally, did you ask Kash's ex-wife if she's angry at him? She's like, no, right. I don't think it was necessary.
Right.
Like that is literally the first step in proving what is parental alienation. First of all, is she angry at this guy?
Right. Well, she even
the chain is broken from the first link, and then tying all these other things. These people are. You can't try to be as bad as these people are. You can't. There has to be something governing you that's holding you back from going at full speed. Because you can't be this bad. I would pull someone off the street randomly, and they would be far better at this. All right, so I'm going to read. So everyone get out your hammers and sickles, okay? Okay. So this is literally, I'm reading from Sally's report. This is the recommendation. I don't know. So I'm reading paragraph 69 on page 18 of her report. My recommendations are that the children should be able to have any form of parenting time they choose, if any. Julia should not interfere with the relationship, period. That's it. Nothing about whether Julia was responsible for it. Oh, Julia shouldn't interfere with that relationship. Well, thank you for restating the judgment. Sally, that was so helpful for you.
Yeah, now, that'll be $25,000, please.
Now here's the first. This is at the bottom of the page. So long as Kash continues to rant about Julia and the court system on social media, I do not believe the parenting time will occur, as the children will continue to refuse the contact. That is what they're claiming. So they're saying, I mean, they've been hiding behind the kids now. I mean, you'll see, like, here. Now they have a 15-year-old give a psychological opinion. I swear to God. Okay, so this is the next sentence. The children have made it clear that they monitor his social media accounts. Even KEW, who admits a connection with his father because of the joint interest in outdoor activities, considers Kash's social media posts a gauge on his mental illness and his concern for his own safety to have unsupervised contact with his father. His posts begging for the court to stop keeping him from his children is allegedly causing his children to reject him.
Yep. Okay. I had the same thing, Ted. Same exact. That's why I don't have my kids. They said I said, well, what about before that? What was the reason before that?
It's okay, just create conflict. Just create conflict in order to generate attorney fee billing hours. Yep.
Now, so here is the conclusion. This is her recommendation. Kash has repeatedly been told that his children monitor his social media, which interferes with either child wanting a relationship with him, but he is unable or unwilling to change the behavior. The children now see what she does here, Sean, is she goes from the best interest standard to the serious endangerment standard, which is a completely different statute. So we have the best interest, the 17 best interest factors in Illinois. Only one of those factors is the wishes of the children. That's one. So she doesn't discuss any other factors under the best interest standard, the 17 best interest factors, except for one, and basically doesn't say which parent should get the children. It says the children choose. So actually she didn't use any of the best interest factors. Then she wades into the serious endangerment standard, which this motion is not filed under. Okay, we're not seeking a restriction of my own client. We're seeking a motion to end all this crap, and it's a circus. Procedurally, it's all tied in knots. This is a final sentence. The children are at a serious endangerment to their emotional well-being and development until or unless Kash can focus on them.
Yeah.
Instead of his war with the system and their mother.
Guys, I just want to throw in there
that wasn't state media.
What the judge said in my case was, well, her lawyer said I'm anti-establishment, and the judge said that this is the finest system in the world. That's what he said to me, and that without this system, there'd be anarchy. And the thing is the three of us men, and Kash, four of us men, and many, many others are actually real men. We're real men. We're standing up to, as Kash likes to put it, beta males. And we are saying enough is enough. This is abuse. And the more we speak out, they're trying to keep Kash from his children. And you know what? Kash keeps going. They're trying to grind us out,
it's the three crossroads, right? It's push them to the three crossroads where you only have, where you can only choose
hurt someone,
hurt
Marcel,
right? exit stage left, right? Or litigate. And then we fault you for litigating.
Right.
We fault you for accessing the judicial system in order to get justice.
Well, this is what's going to break the system. Okay? And it's already breaking. Is that in the Illinois area, the reunification counselor, which is a cottage industry, some of the largest ones it's taking a month to even get in. Okay, I mean, to get a trial especially after COVID, trials are bumped up. We're spending an entire week of a judge's time talking about nonsense shit. It is a total waste of the public resources. But what they're doing is that they're clinging on to what they can get their hands on. But there's no way that the system can keep up with this. And there's just one point I want to make of how stupid these people are. Okay, because of course they didn't read the entire case file. I did. It turns out that in February 2017, there's a provision in the judgment that says the parents have to share the social media accounts and security protocols with the other parent. So she's required to tell Kash to give Kash the kids' social media accounts and to provide him the kind of measures she's taking to supervise their online activity, which of course would include what he's doing. But on top of that, they, with an agreed order on February 8th of 2017, enter an order that said it's the custodial parent's responsibility to monitor and to make sure that the children are not exposed to the other parent's activism.
Right.
So the duty is on her.
Yeah.
And so their entire case, this Star Chamber joke, I mean, where they're basically trying to set Kash up. They are. I mean, we're trying to get her out of it. We're not done yet. But the whole thing is premised on a case against Kash in which she violated a legal duty she wanted and assumed, which is to monitor and to make sure that children aren't exposed to the activism of the other parent, meaning Kash. And there's, I mean, they have nothing on him. Nothing.
Yeah, it's circular arguments all the way. You know that old the one it's turtles all the way down. Right?
What does that mean?
Oh, it's
Slow?
from I don't remember which sci-fi book it's from, but it's based on this philosophical idea of, what is the world stand, what's the world on top of? Well, it's mounted on top of, the back of a turtle. What's the turtle standing on top of another turtle? And what's that turtle on top of another turtle? And it's just turtles all the way down. Right? It's literally this
bottomless pit of confusion and dysfunction.
Right. And again, remember when I was talking about these tactics, right? I was talking about the things that you need to watch out for, these unethical tactics. And here's and Ted is talking about it. Kash's example is a really great example of it. And one of the primary tactic is create a giant cluster mess.
Yes.
Right? Make it as complex and as confusing as you possibly can, so that any judge or anybody who's going to come along and get involved and try and sort this out is going to go, my Lord, it's an entire shelf full of paper that I have to try and read and synthesize and understand, right, in order to come to a conclusion as to, who's telling the truth, who's lying, who's somewhere in between, right? I'm not going to do that. I can't figure that out. These two people can't manage their lives. I don't care. Mm-hmm. And again, it comes back to that whole thing. It comes back to those unethical attorneys. Because why? Because they never once used any of these conflict de-escalating tactics that we talked about.
And the deeper they get, the more they can't get out, because what they're fundamentally out for is themselves.
Right.
And they want everything they do has to either they can't. Sometimes they get in so deep they can't save face.
Right. I mean,
so Kash walks out with his children. They're going to have to say, "Oh, sorry guys, we kind of messed this one up." I'm going to have to give them an out. Like when you get in a negotiation with someone and you really corner them, you always have to. I'll give these people an out. There are plenty of ways to do that. The easiest way is just give him his kids, because he's prohibited from doing social media with his kids. If you want him off social media, give him his kids.
Right. But, again, I mean, we were talking about this before. I think we need a specific ethical rule that applies only to family law attorneys, just like we've got specific ethical rules that apply to prosecutors. I think we need exactly the same thing, because, I mean, I've got my copy of the ethical rules here. I can cite several of them from what you're talking about that I can come up with and say opposing counsel's violating RPC 3.3, 3.1, 4.1, 8.4. I can just rattle these things off, right? And, maybe if you get the Illinois, Bar Association to enforce that, okay, great, but it's not the same thing as, if we had a specific ethical rule that said a family law attorney must do this.
But I'm totally with you, and I'm the general counsel of the Family Civil Liberties Union. I'm intensely interested in what you're doing, Sean. And that's actually my job. My job is, I took this on as a volunteer to basically certify ethical family attorneys, and get, good luck on that one. But I mean, I'm with you, Sean. But the problem that we have is that what we're facing here is we're not dealing with written rules. We're dealing with unwritten rules, customs, practices, usages that are made up rules, unspoken rules, such as you can't record your children. I mean, we have a fantastic example in this case of a second phone call, which Chris was put up, the end of that call. But at the beginning of that call, he's talking with his son. Kash records it, and his son records it. And so Sally comes in with her own sort of recollection, which is poor. It doesn't capture what actually occurred in this phone call. We want to play the phone call. We want the court to see the phone call. They're refusing to allow us to play it. Why? Why? They both recorded it.
So let me ask you this: how much money do you think I made of?
That's
$10,000. You should, because you're supposed to represent the best interests of my children. $10,000 for 2 phone calls. That's the amount of progress you're capable of. Is $10,000 for 2 phone calls.
Apparently, that's all I'm capable of.
Well, that's all the tangible advancement that we've made. 2 phone calls for $10,000. How much money do you think that I can raise or work for? I've been furloughed for 3 months, Sally. My military.
I suspect you have been furloughed ever since March, anyway.
My military benefits barely get me to the end of the month.
Okay, I don't know why I'm talking about my money with you, because I only have to talk to one person about that, and that's Judge Christensen.
Well, I'm the one who has to pay you. So, is it in the best interest of my kids for me to foreclose on my home to pay you? Is that in the best interest? Is it in the best interest for me to have my car repossessed?
It's in the best interest of my kids to foreclose your home to pay me, yes.
It's in the best interest of your kids to foreclose on my home to pay you.
Yes.
And that's the problem I have with attorneys.
On your home, but to pay me, yes.
And this is
My time.
and
I'm done with this conversation. I don't see this conversation.
So here we have some impeachment evidence against Sally Lecter.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to try to offer it. I know she won't let me do it. Where she's saying that basically it's in her best interest to draw out this case and take as much money as she can, even if it means foreclosing on his house and car, because it's in her children's best interest, and certainly not his or his best interest or his children's best interest.
You want me to keep playing that?
No. She's opposing counsel, right?
But play the very end of it.
Okay.
She's opposing counsel, right?
No, she's a guardian ad litem.
Oh, right.
Being productive to you.
Okay, so go to the end of it, the very end.
I don't have the money.
Okay, just play. Yeah.
Tell you walk away
I
from
walked
them
away from the
2019,
courts.
And I'm not telling you walk away from them 2020.
Of course you're not. Of course you're not. We only do everything to drag out cases to ensure that parents will never have a meaningful access or relationship with their kids. The state does not have an interest in this case. I've never been found to be unfit. There's no finding of unfitness, no motion to find me unfit, no nothing. So unless the state can prove a compelling reason for why it's denying me a relationship with my children, okay, you have an obligation as their attorney to protect their civil rights. Their civil rights demand that.
She said it's not her job to defend the children's civil rights because she's a guardian ad litem. She says that.
Wow.
Okay, so that's impeachment evidence I can't get in. I'm going to demand that they tell them, give me a specific legal authority that says that we can't bring this in. That you can't record the actual evidence of a call with your child in order to rebut the report of a guardian ad litem. You tell me why you can't do that. The right to record, all these things like you were talking about before, Sean, of these protective orders. The pro se party can't file. Those kinds of things. Locking them out, preventing the parties from communicating from one another so they communicate only through counsel, and the counsel drag this out.
Right.
What we're dealing with are the unwritten rules that really are the barrier. And of course, they're just complete lack of any competency or accountability.
Right. And there's no well, there's very little accountability. And I don't know that I have I don't know that I have the answers to this, right? I mean, I'm identifying the problem, but I mean, I'm not sure I got any of the answers to this.
Well, I mean,
Right.
Sean, you and I are in a problem. At least we're thinking about this. Is trying to put together some sort, and you're far ahead of this. And God bless you, Sean. I take my hat off to you, and I'm always open to listening to your ideas. And we need to get a bigger brainstorm of attorneys to see if it's even possible to put together an enforceable, practical, ethical code that would sort out the good ones from the bad ones.
So this lady's going to testify tomorrow.
No, she already did. She's done. She testified yesterday and today for a total of maybe about 5 hours.
So
And-
you tried the open door doctrine.
Oh, sure. I mean, she talked about it today, but I wasn't going to introduce this this exhibit. I'm going to try to get this in through Cash's testimony. I could have tried to get it in. I probably could have tried to get it in on rebuttal on impeachment evidence, but I know that Judge Christensen isn't going to allow this. I'm gonna make an offer of proof. There are all kinds of things that I anticipate that she will not, much of our strongest evidence, but we'll see.
Yeah, but you don't want to talk about that now. You actually, yeah, right, because you're still in trial.
Well, I mean,
I know. Yeah,
we haven't said very much, but I mean, we finally are on the cusp of really.
It's literally insane the level of conflict that they create for the specific purpose of creating conflict in order to create attorney's fees.
That straight up.
And the funny thing is and by
the way, I'm not getting paid.
The litigants don't start here. I'll bet you that I mean, I don't know Kash, right? But I'll bet you that in a quiet moment, I bet you Kash still has lots of positive feelings for the mother of his children, right? I bet you he's got probably lots of empathy for the fact that she's basically being manipulated by the people around her that are controlling her. Right? I bet you.
Well,
he's got probably lots of empathy.
That is, I'll let Kash talk to that.
I don't know, and maybe Kash isn't the best example, but I've talked to lots of guys, that are like, they're like, I loved and cared about this woman, right? she's the mother of my children. I don't want to, right? I mean, I don't want to have this giant nightmare with her, and she's being raped by her attorney, who's literally stealing all of her money and stealing her.
And that's what Sally Lichter told me. She said, "I don't know why she's funding this. Why is she doing this?" And we know this.
I think I can tell you the reason why they're doing this. I mean, because there's a lot of social science on why they're doing this, right? It's about the fact that they feel a certain way. They feel like they're stuck in this environment, and they feel like all their dirty laundry was put on display, and they have been shamed by the person that they loved and trusted the most. And here's the screwed up thing. They're absolutely right. And that is what's going on. And that is what's motivating them. But what they're wrong about is that it's not their former partner's fault that this is happening. What the reason why this is happening is because the system has been created through the law of unintended consequences to do this to people.
Well, there was a conservative author, I think her name was Mona Sharon, who wrote a book several years ago, 20 years ago maybe, called Useful Idiots. And it had to do with it was a political angle. But the thing is that I think that people like Cash's ex and my ex and probably yours, okay, so I'm not just speaking for Kash, I'm speaking for myself right now, is that I figured out that this was a big scam after about 2 months, because there were like some telltale things where these fees were extraordinary. They were dragging out status hearings for 3 hours, and I figured it out right away that, oh my God, this is a huge scam. And so I was texting my ex and telling her, I'm like, you've got to stop. Like, these people are out to screw you. They are using you. Okay. So I
said the same thing to my ex-wife. I was like, they are literally going to rob you. And I was right. And
yes,
was
exactly.
You know what? My best friend said something to me, and it was so telling. She said, my best friend is female. I call her my sister. She said to me, Sean, I think she's done listening to you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's it. That's exactly what it is.
Let me ask you this, Sean. When you had this epiphany, were you texting her frantically, like with exclamation points, like all caps, like you are getting used, you are going to get ripped off, they are baiting you to take this, deeper and deeper and deeper? Because
It was email, and it was back when we were still talking. I mean, we literally had a conversation where she was saying to me, she's saying, I'm afraid because you're an attorney that you could screw me over. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to screw you over. I love you. I care about you. You're the mother of my child, right?
And I'm a man.
Right. I've been with, I would never do that to you. And I still feel that way, right? I would never screw my ex-wife over, right? Never. But I said, if you involve an attorney, particularly a high conflict attorney, into this mess, and they come along and they apply all of the tactics that we learned in law school, that the adversarial system is very good for determining the truth in some situations. But in some situations, like when you have the best interest of a family and a child at stake, the adversarial system is a fucking disaster. It's a disaster because all it does is create problems amongst people who need less problems rather than more.
And what happens is this is my view is what should be the punishment on this type of personality. I think everyone's entitled to make a mistake when they're thrown into this process. I mean, and people, like I've done this in one of my other cases involving a woman, like, oh, she did this. She's just like, hey, this is her first time. It's not like this is her third or fourth. Like everyone's entitled to make a mistake coming into this process. And even the attorneys that are trying to brook the conflict, like yeah, they know. I'm able to dial down stuff, but by conceding things like, well, okay, fine. The little stuff. But when you protract it out like this, okay, there are some people that including men that want to win and they don't care how.
Right.
And they don't care how much they pay, and they'll ride this out. Usually these people will not know that they're being used because first of all, they're pathological, they're delusional, and they think they're entitled to something that they're not. They know nothing about the rights of other people or anything. So they know nothing. And so when things start to go their way, their delusion is realized. So they're no longer delusional. But when you, it doesn't matter whether it's intentional or not, that when you allow this to occur for a protracted period of time, I believe that you can infer intent. But if even if there's no intent, there is such neglect and such clear, res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. The fact that it occurred makes that person at fault, and they should be held deeply accountable for it. Well, they should lose custody. They should absolutely be put under the same vice that they put the other parent under. Well, but the problem is that the parent who has been victim to this, they may or may not do that, and they shouldn't do it. They shouldn't reciprocate. But the thing is, like people like Kash are never even given a chance.
Right.
Like,
but I mean, the system is broader than that, though, Ted. The problem is broader than that. The problem is that the court system itself, not once ever does anything to de-escalate these parties. Not once. In my case, the court system has never forced my ex-wife and I to do anything to find any common ground. Nothing. Zero. There's been nothing but rewarding creating more problems. Right. There's been, I talk about the fact that I think my ex-wife needs to wind up, the court needs to hold her responsible, hold her accountable for the court orders that she's ignoring. But even more broadly than that, even if you just abstract from that, again, I keep talking about the fact you can get a 4-year degree in conflict de-escalation stuff, right? We went to law school. We learned an enormous amount of skill. I took mediation. I don't know if you took mediation, but in mediation, I was taught actual skills on how to de-escalate conflicts and how to build consensus. But the court system never requires that of parents. Never requires that of parents. And there is social science. I can cite you the exact study. I've actually got it up on my computer right now. There is social science that shows that when parents that are in conflict with each other are forced to work with each other in the best interest of their children, that the conflict between them de-escalates and calms down, and that their children's lives improve. And it's not hard. It's not rocket science. You put people into into, a conference room. You get them to tell their story. You get them to tell their feelings. The other person gets to tell their feelings, and they have to listen to them. This is someone that they shared a life with, and consensus and empathy is grown and built. But never once do the adversarial, high conflict divorce attorneys that are busy creating conflict, busy fucking over their own clients,
Right.
use any of those tactics. And they're rewarded for not doing it.
Well, no, when they know that their clients are running out of money, then all of a sudden they become brilliant at negotiations. I took a case that was dragging on for 2 years, and we hashed out a settlement agreement and about a parental allocation agreement in about 10, 15 minutes. No problem. Like, I come in, I'm in this case for a couple months. I'm like, well, you're not fighting over child support. You're not fighting over parenting time. What the hell is holding this thing up? And meantime, they're locked in this perpetual sort of custody battle where, the father in this case is always trying to just, undermine and sort of, and it's all being goaded by the other attorney. The attorney is goading the father to, to try to, paint the mother to be something that she's not. She wants equal, roughly equal parenting time, doesn't care about child support, wants to split up the assets and be gone with it and move on with her life. And so that's a clear example where, like, again, where an ethical person will come in and say, oh no, I'm not going to allow you, to ever allow these people to suck you in what they're trying to do. Like, literally the suction was, they're trying to draw this woman. I came in and boom, knock that off. These people can do it, but they'll only do it when they're running out of money, when they know the money's gone.
Yeah,
gentlemen, I don't want to cut you short because I could listen to you all day, but I have CPS coming to visit me in the morning.
You're kidding.
No, they're coming to visit me. My kid had a rash, so we're gonna come visit my home.
Yeah, he's gonna get a scabies inspection.
Yeah, apparently I'm getting a scabies inspection. My kids went to the pool. They have eczema, and they probably got irritated from the chlorine or the sun or something.
No, don't go. It's clearly the scabies.
But apparently I'm nasty, and my bed's nasty.
Right.
This is my nasty bed.
Yeah.
I don't have a rash. I got a lot of freckles, but no rash. I'm gonna do the gun show real quick. Bop, 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 bop. And then so they're gonna be here at 8:15 to inspect my home because I'm a disgusting human being.
Chris, I wish Connie was here. I'm not saying I'm the one that has, I'm not giving you legal advice here, but my siren is running on. The fact that they would even show up to your house under those circumstances, who reported it?
They won't tell me, but I'm assuming it's not.
I wouldn't let them in because if they talk to your ex first, she loaded them up and they're going to come in on a fishing expedition.
Someone's got to file the report, right? So of course she did it. It wasn't anyone else.
I wouldn't let them in the house, and I would seriously consider talking to an attorney. I would postpone this visit and
which attorney? None of them want to be you guys here in North Carolina. I don't have one.
I have them call me. I'm going to be busy all this week. But
they're welcome to come in my home. They're welcome to. And then I have a few things I need to share as well.
Okay.
What are you going to do? I got nothing to hide. I'll take it as an opportunity to speak with them.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Another day.
Gentlemen, so Ted, go ahead and tell us what's going on tomorrow. Proceedings again, what, 9:30?
Okay, so this is what's going to happen tomorrow morning. Is that the children are going to arrive at a little before 9:30. They're going to be ushered into the courtroom by the Lake County Sheriff's Office on the fear that they might see their father. And then they're going to get interrogated by the judge with questions that we gave to the judge. Ours are pretty good. She's going to decide whether she asks her questions. We'll see. She may or may not. And she's going to sit down and she's going to interview these children who have not seen their father in almost 3 years and basically ask them what they want in so much. Is she going to do an analysis of whether these children have been alienated or whether there's in fact been an entire manipulation game occurring? I'll highly doubt it. She said today, I'm not going to cross-examine these children. We didn't ask any of those questions. Just simple questions that would, all these little things that any person could get out. So anyway, so the children are going to be interviewed tomorrow. Kash is going to testify. And then we may have the reunification counselor come in and testify. And then Julia, guess what? She can't be there on Thursday and Friday, which would be the day that she testifies. She's unavailable. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Sean, do you have anything you want to add before we get off?
No.
Fellas,
luck.
God, you know, gentlemen, I know you're going through your own personal nonsense and you put that aside daily and help. I've spoken with both of you on the phone for hours that are billable hours that you volunteer your time while having your own cases and your own clients and your own custody battles to deal with, including Kash's, Ted. And guys, I want to thank you publicly on this platform. You know, thank you. It's very important what we're doing. I may go get a law degree because of you guys. I may run for office because, you know, me and Kash might run for governor of our states. I don't know what's going on, but we're not giving up. And we're going to push back because that's what real fathers and real men do. So I want to thank you both for helping us and for speaking out. And gosh, I wish I could do something for you fellas other than give you this platform to speak.
Oh, I do have something.
Yeah.
We talked about organizing parental alienation protests.
Let's bring that. Let's chat about that for a couple minutes.
Right.
Okay. So me and
the plug being is that Parental Alienation Day is on August or on April.
It's April 25th.
April 25th,
which is a Monday of 2022.
Right? And you know that we should spread the word that everybody who's interested in this issue should go to the largest courthouse that's, you know, that they can comfortably get to and be there at 9 a.m. on Parental Alienation Day. Parental Alienation Day, 9 a.m., the closest, largest courthouse to you,
And
where you're most likely to find somebody else there at 9 a.m. with their cardboard sign.
And we need every group, every nonprofit, Veteran Liberty Network, Dad Talk, We the Parents,
That's
National Parents Organization, all of them to literally get behind this.
9 a.m. Parental Alienation Day at the largest courthouse that you can comfortably get to.
Be there or quit bitching. Quit bitching if you're not going to do nothing.
Take a couple hours off from work.
Yep.
If you're working.
Sick
Show up,
day.
make yourself a cardboard sign, make it an issue.
It's a mental health day. Take a mental health day.
Right.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate it. I'm getting off.
Good night.
Kash, if you can hear me, or Ted, good luck tomorrow. I will speak to you guys soon. I'll let you know how CPS likes my home.
Yeah, take a shower, man.
Record. I agree with Sean. Record the whole goddamn thing.
So I can record it?
You absolutely can record it.
Okay, can I live stream it?
In your own home, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy, and they are public officials conducting their public duties. You record every single second.
Okay.
If you're
tell them you're doing it.
If your camera stops recording, you don't talk to them until you have space. You recharge your battery. You do not let any moment go.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask some questions and bring up some information to them as well. So,
you're walking, you got to be a little careful because then, all the things that mom is telling them, my inclination is that you only keep it to what they're investigating.
Okay.
Period.
Do mine separately.
Because if I know how you're feeling, Kash, you got screwed by that horrible judge in North Carolina. There's no doubt about it. 100%. Anyone knows you knows that you present well.
Right.
If you think that you're going to get a better shot at justice from North Carolina CPS,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's in God's hands. I'll do my best to keep my composure and stick to the facts and be as accommodating and polite as possible. But as you guys know, this is exhausting. This is traumatic and it's abusive. And, I'm going to keep turning the other cheek until I have to keep defending myself. And I'll try to stay within the letter of the law. I mean, I do respect the law, but the law doesn't respect any of us.
No.
And or our children. So it's hard. It's really hard.
Yep.
So, all right, gentlemen, have a great night. I'll talk to you guys soon and we'll be in touch.
Good night.
Night, everybody.